A young child looks up at the old man sitting in the chair. The old man seemingly having nodded off a while ago. Poppy? Poppy, what happens next? Right. Where was I? He scratches his head and looks at the end of his now cold pipe, his mind seemingly having wandered off for a time. Now, you might be thinking at this stage that everyone in the Oasis might be safe. Well, this could be farther from the truth. He points the end of his pipe at the children on the floor as he speaks. While Val, Kurt, and Sybil and the others had a plan, what they failed to realize was that the children at the Oasis had not been inoculated against TB. You could think of this disease as being like the ordinary cold or flu, but it can affect you much worse. These children, if they were to catch the disease, the future of the Oasis would be at stake. The survival of humanity lives in children, and their hope to live in a symbiotic relationship with the new nature. That will be your story, that is for sure. William, that Scottish-Irish fella, had started unbuilding the large generator out the back on Abigail's orders. Now, while it was important to have those generators in good working condition, they were only really used in times of duress, when storms brought those crimson whims, or when the cold room needed topping up with cold. Taryn and the Tan family, as per the usual daily routine, tended to the crops indoors. Nicole had quartered all of the alcohol out of the stored area and prepared it for delivery to the hospital. Now, while she was busy, she was always constantly concerned about Medley being exposed to the diseases out there in the other room. She had a fondness for the nurse. And for a time being, the Oasis was divided into two parts. Medley had stabilized the pregnant lady, and later that night, Sybil had to face one of her biggest challenges to date, delivering this poor child into the world while Medley fought to keep the pregnant lady alive. The woman screams as sweat rolls down her face. People of the Oasis watch from the safety of behind the door. The husband holds the woman's hands, offering what little help he can and encouragement. Medley, sitting at the head of the woman, constantly taking her blood pressure and monitoring her vitals, while she checks on the drip, looks down at Sybil.
With what?
What are you saying?
Help you with what?
The birth. The child is coming.
No, that is not. No, that is not anything that I do. That is not anything that I signed up for. And last time I tried to help someone, look what happened.
I can't do two things at once. I can't keep the lady alive and deliver this baby.
I can't do either.
Well, you're going to have to.
Why can't Baker do it?
Look, I can guide you through it. Listen, I've got my hands full here. You can understand why... and she looks over at Baker. It's not that hard.
I can understand. What do you want me to do?
Okay, so we've got the warm water and towels.
Yes.
And
what? Pour water on her? You're really not seeming to get that I don't know what is happening.
And I'm going to guide you through every step. It is time for a roll.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, because Medley is there and she has first aid experience, she can guide you through it, which will give you one advantage dice, or you can choose to use
one of
Well,
your
I
own
do
gifts.
have a gift. Yes, I do have a gift that'll give me 2 advantage dice in a check. Now I can only use this once per crisis, but hey, now's not a bad time, right? So my gift is luck, and I'm imagining I'm going to need luck to try and deliver a baby. What? So I'm gonna spend 2 soma, and then I get 2 advantage dice, which I'm gonna roll. And since what did you think the attribute for this one would be? I can see determination for trying to, I don't know, summon up the willpower, or mind for trying to understand the somewhat medical directions I'm being given.
Well, determination could also be used to overcome, a great challenge. So, whichever one you think would fit more within your
I was
luck.
thinking more mind, because she's really relying on Medley for this, having no base of her own expertise to be going from. So if you have no objection, then I would use mind.
Yep.
So my score for that one is 4, which is going to give me 4 base successes to start off with. But since you said the opposition level on this is a 5, I'm going to try and get 2 additional successes on top of that, because that would bring me to the standard outcome. No cost, no increment, just good enough. And so I'm gonna roll 2.
Yep. So a standard outcome is the opposition level +1.
Okay.
That was close.
5 and 2. Okay, so that is exactly what I needed. Yes, that is exactly what I needed. All right.
So you didn't roll a 1, which means it wasn't a neutral.
No, yes. On advantage dice, even if I got a 1, I wouldn't have failed the whole thing right off the bat, but if I'd only gotten 1 success there, I would have had a cost, which, not necessarily great when you're dealing with medical stuff. So I'm fine to have just a straight success.
Okay, so standard outcome. How do you want to do this?
So Sybil is very stressed and basically ends up not exactly entering a fugue state, but is very much so on autopilot and is kind of just doing whatever Medley says to do and trying not to be present in this scenario as much as possible. So she's not really aware how things are going, but they're going.
And by morning, the baby is born. Yep.
All right, Sybil will look up at the window. She's sitting on the floor with her dog, who is also in quarantine for some reason.
We need her, Medley.
And Medley, looking exhausted, is taking the opportunity to get at least a 5-minute rest in, looks up. What do you mean you need her?
Yes, we need Sybil.
For?
The hospital run. She can do no more good here. She's been inoculated. We will keep away from everyone else here, but we need her.
She looks over to Sybil. Are you up for going to the hospital?
Yes, please. I would like to get out of here very much. I'm sure the baby's great or whatever, but this is not really my thing.
You did really well last night and followed my instructions almost to the T. Almost like you were a natural.
I hope I never have to do that again. And we're lucky that you're here, because if you weren't,
I was going to
I
say you
wouldn't
might want to consider taking up a new
What?
career path, perhaps.
becoming a midwife? No, no, thank you. I'm fine. I'll leave that to you.
It's a valuable skill, especially in today's society.
And she's going to open the door and gesture for her dog to exit first, because she assumes they don't need the dog in there anymore either. Yes, she and the dog will go outside.
Hmm.
And Val will turn and start walking back towards where he came from, which is the flagpole. Sounded like things went well, or as well enough that could be expected under the circumstances. And there is a flag unfolded upon the ground. This was a good idea of yours.
So we're getting help in then.
I have been thinking during the night that it might be an idea to try to get some help. Yes. If any of the travelling nomads are coming through, they will see the flag. I am, however, a little concerned with the illness that is currently here. We do not want to infect any of them, but we also don't want to turn them away.
True. We could meet them outside the community before they get too close. Tell them we're
It'd be the docks, yeah.
fine,
I guess we
but
can. You're right. We could have them not dock, and we're just close enough that we can converse.
And what are we offering them? I remember Kurt and his very long conversation with Nicole about taking some alcohol out of reserve, so I imagine no more of that will be available.
If we are lucky, it'll be the river regulators, which we've dealt with before on several occasions. They are more likely to accept payment in the future than someone that we have not dealt with.
Well, I feel my luck yesterday, but perhaps someone else has some to spare.
I'm a little unsure what to ask, though. I feel we should try to help the young couple that we picked up. I do not know if the regulators have any real medics. I don't think they do. Not proper ones, anyway. I don't think they would be able to obtain enough material that would be required for the entire community. They may be able to find enough to stabilize or help them and possibly Medley if she needs it, although Medley would have been inoculated before, which means we still have to go to the hospital.
Yes, if they could find antibiotics anywhere, I don't know what the chances of that are. I've never looked for any. That could help Allie for the moment, but if you have concerns about it spreading through the rest of the community, that sounds as though we'd be looking more for a method of immunization.
Yes. I don't know enough about it. It was more wiped out when, I was growing up, apart from some of the third world countries.
It must have still existed. I mean, you can be vaccinated against it, and I remember people needing to get tests for it if they were working in certain jobs, usually with children.
The children is where my concern mainly lies. We know they haven't been inoculated. They couldn't have been.
No, they're not old enough. Well, we have
So
to
I do
visit
not
the
know if it's spread.
hospital. I don't know. You and I came into contact with her. Medley and Baker as well, but they're still in there. I do not know how these things work. We need to get to the hospital, but let's hope your river regulators come quickly so we can get on with that.
Kurt was preparing stuff for the journey. I haven't seen him just yet. I know he had some alcohol and some other items in a bag.
Well, I suppose we'd best find him as well then.
I will finish putting the flags up and then we will see. And he stops and he looks concerned as he looks out across the water from the vantage point on top of the hill. And he looks like he wants to say something, but he looks at you and then he just looks back at the water and frowns.
Please tell me you don't see something out there.
And he looks back. There's something out there.
What?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's not revealed itself, but there's been ripples and the odd movement. And these could not be caused by a regular fish too big.
Wonderful.
I can feel it.
How big do you think? Big enough to eat a boat?
No, but big
Oh.
enough to eat a person.
Of course. Just
And from their vantage point, they spied across the river. Light sparkled off its forever changing surface. Bits of branches and debris floated on by and eventually out of sight, and soon followed by more debris. Some getting caught in the Chimera Dam, some floating past it, some getting caught on some of the buildings within the town itself. And for a brief moment, they spied something dark moving beneath the surface of the river. The beast was perhaps maybe 8 foot long from head to tip of tail. It moved about silently, snaking its way around the town of International Falls, investigating bits of debris, and then the small animal carcass that ended up being dragged under the water.
And Sybil is just staring at this unidentifiable creature with an expression of horror.
And Val will hook the flag up and pull it to the top of the flagpole.
And
He looks
Milo
back.
runs at full speed to the edge of the water, barking incessantly.
Milo, get back here.
Milo stops barking and looks back. Looks
Please.
back at the water and starts barking again.
Milo, please.
And Milo continues to bark.
So Sybil's going to go down to drag him back by the collar.
And Val turns round. Sybil!
I'm much less likely to throw myself into the water after it, I assure you, but I need to get him away from the edge.
If it's what I think it is, it can come out of the water.
That's why I've got to get him quick. So I'm using presence.
It wants
I
to
have-
go after the beast.
I have 4 in presence.
Hmm.
So I could just take that and not roll to avoid the possibility of failing. It does mean that I will have a cost attached to that, as that's just the exact opposition level. I think I'm going to go with that to avoid risking failure and having this dog throw itself into the river. So I will take an outcome with a cost.
You wrestle with Milo, and Milo sees the dark shape in the water and starts fighting back against you and manages to drag you waist deep into the water.
All right, and she is desperately scrambling. She's got one hand in his collar, just hanging on really tight so as to not lose him. And with her other arm, she's just trying to scramble back up onto the bank.
And from Val's vantage point, he sees the dark shape looming closer as you
Of
manage
course
to
he
pull
does.
him, your best friend Milo, back up onto the shoreline.
Okay. And if she's able to get him up back onto the shore, then she's just going to start dragging him back up to where Val is.
And Val would have been coming down to try to drag you out of the water if it was still that point, but as you got out, but he still will have come down and either
Just forming a
pull
chain of
Milo
people
or
dragging.
yeah, he's not impressed.
He doesn't have to be. It's fine. Then she's going to not collapse exactly, but sit down rather heavily on the ground, still very tightly grasping the dog's collar. And just sort of breathe. Milo, you cannot fight whatever that is. You will not win. That is not a possibility.
And he shakes himself off and starts licking your face.
Ridiculous dog.
That was reckless.
Yes, it was. Who are you talking to?
Both of you.
Well, only one of us understands, so. No, yes, it was.
Have a plan. And Val turns and walks off.
And Sybil will look at him walking off and then look back to Milo and try and decide the best thing to do with him, which is probably going to be he has to stay inside if we're leaving so he doesn't go trying to attack big crocodiles. So she's going to bring him inside and find someone who she will make swear on their life that they will not let him out and down into the water.
The signal was sent. It took a couple of days for the regulators to show. They flew down the river on what they call back in their days an airboat. It didn't actually fly, but did use a propeller, like a plane would, to push itself through the air, but this was more on top of the slick waters of the river. 4 regulators, that were the name of this particular group back then, disembarked from the boat and were about to make their way up to the Oasis, but were told by the Oasis people to return to their vehicle as per quarantine. All 4 were dressed in deep blue uniform that puffed out at the hips, with boots coming almost up to knee-high, strange looking. Like something you might have seen in the very First World War. All had wide-brimmed slouch hats pinned to one side with soft drink pins. Not entirely sure of the meaning behind that, and none were willing to offer any answers in that regard. The 4 were leather-belted, pistols at each side. The regulators were made up of people who would probably have served in the military as reservists or may have been in the police force or at some stage in their career before the fall.
Kurt will walk down, flipping a coin. Sorry we could not let you dock. We have a problem, to say the least.
And one of the regulators, who looks like he's the leader of the 4, waves. Hail, friend. I see you have flagged us, and well, I do see the quarantine. I thought you guys would have quarantined yourselves inside. Is it all over your small island?
Well, no, but we have precautions. We have children.
Ah, yes, I am aware of the children. What, pray tell, manner of disease do you have amongst your fine people?
Well, the doc says it's tuberculosis, and we have no reason to not believe that, so...
So no fear of any awakened?
Not to our knowledge, no.
So, and he looks around at his other 3 regulators. What can we do to assist?
Well, we are currently extremely low on our medical supplies and completely out of antibiotics. We were going to meet with the hospital, but any you have now would be greatly appreciated.
How many of you are infected?
Well, we have 1 who's actually infected and about 4 who's been exposed.
Okay. We might just have the resources for that.
How could we repay you?
We could spare some antibiotics to help your sick friend. That's about all we can do. We don't have any immunizations against such a disease. Perhaps the hospital? And to pay us, anything that you can spare in the way of food, especially in the greenery department.
Rick smiles. I'm sure we can manage that. I think the farm's the only thing going well for us right now.
Ah, good to hear. Food's become a bit of a rarity these days. All right, we'll make way, and we'll be back in a couple of hours.
We'll be waiting.
And for a time, the Oasis was at ease, at least for a few hours. They still had to get to the hospital, navigate past the beast. But the regulators came, dropped off their medicines, picked up their supplies, and left the oasis, once again fending for themselves. In the next chapter, Val, Kurt, and Sybil try and find a way past the beast. A large chimera, hungry for animal and human flesh.